I will want to start recording.
Being slow, sorry.
I see we're live on YouTube. I don't see that we're recording on Zoom yet. There we go. You're on it.
Okay.
All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. This is the Norwalk City Council business meeting for Thursday, January 7th, 2021. It is 5:01 p.m. We will call to order. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Lester. I see a thumbs up.
Here,
Baker?
sorry.
Baker? He's not on sound, but I can see him. Reba?
Here.
Cool?
Here.
Livingston?
Here.
Mayor Tom Phillips.
I am here as well. So we do have quorum and we will move on. So this meeting of the Norwalk City Council on January 7th, 2021 is being held electronically. Governor Reynolds issued a state of public health disaster effective November 16th, 2020 that prohibits indoor gatherings of more than 15 people. I issued a proclamation of emergency effective November 9th, 2020 that closed our public buildings. So this meeting will be conducted electronically. As with all electronic meetings, there may be some technical glitches. We may talk over each other, and there could be a bunch of other issues that occur during our meeting tonight. I just ask that we all be patient and respectful with each other as we conduct this meeting. For those on the Zoom meeting, you might notice that your microphones are muted, and you may or may not be able to unmute your microphone. If you want to speak to an agenda item, please let us know when that item comes up, and we'll allow you to unmute your microphone during public comment. You can let us know by raising your Zoom hand or by flagging us in the chat box. I know that to begin with, we are going to allow people to unmute. However, if things happen, we'll go ahead and turn that option off. You'll notice that you needed to be allowed into the Zoom meeting tonight. If you were disruptive, we're going to give you a warning and ask you to stop being disruptive. If you continue to be disruptive, we'll remove you from this meeting and you will not be allowed back in. This is what would happen with a full in-person meeting, so this really isn't a change to our procedures. We are streaming this meeting through YouTube. We believe YouTube provides the ability for a much broader audience to view our meetings. You'll find the ability to comment to the YouTube meeting has been turned off. This is done so we don't have a meeting going on within a meeting. We are recording this meeting on Zoom and on YouTube, so please act accordingly. Finally, I'm only human and I may miss recognizing someone. If that happens, please interrupt me via the chat box. I won't be offended at all if you do. Our next item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. And let me see if I can get a flag up here. I don't know how to. Maybe I can't present. I don't think I can present. I should be able to. Let's just stand up and we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. If you got a flag, face it. Otherwise, pretend. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next item is approval of the agenda. Would anybody like to move any of the consent agenda items to the regular agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor, aye.
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 All those opposed, same. Okay, that motion carries. Item number 4, we are having a dedicated work session tonight, and this is for the mayor, council, and staff. We're going to cut this off at 6 o'clock and start our regular council meeting at that point in time. After the council meeting, we'll see if council wants to proceed with hearing more of the department presentations. And if they do, we'll get back into the work session at that point in time. Tonight's work session is going to be about our city budget. And to begin with, I'm just going to turn it over to Luke and Jean and let them do their thing. And I'm going to go off videos so I can finish my meal. Luke, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you. Can everybody hear me and see the presentation on the screen?
Yes.
All right, excellent. Well, if we have any technical difficulties, I'll have to readjust, but we'll do our best to make this work. This is the Norwalk City Budget, fiscal year 22. My name is Luke Nelson, City Manager, and next up after me is going to be Jean Kelly, our Finance Director. A summary of the presentation. What I'm going to go through are some citizen thoughts. This comes from our most recent citizen survey from just a couple years ago. Some trends, our financial position, primarily in terms of reserves, major factors influencing city finance, the base wage adjustment recommendation, and finally, strategic planning. So we're just going to jump right in. Citizen expectations. Overall, citizens in Norwalk are happy. Just to summarize, they really want to direct funds towards street maintenance, and that's where I'm pointing those yellow arrows on the screen. This came from that survey that was done in 2018. Beyond the street maintenance, their interest is in parks and recreation programming and facilities and sidewalk gaps, along with a desire to see more enforcement of codes. Really beyond that, satisfaction ratings are quite high. But I'll quickly return back to where these arrows are pointing, even right in the middle there under most important percentage. There's a reason I'm drawing attention to this because it has to do with the rest of the budget and where we're going to be spending money in the upcoming years. Notice that 81% identified those city streets as most important. There was no other item on the rest of the list that even came close to that one. So when you hear myself or Jean, when we're talking about the project, or when you hear Wayne talking about the, maintaining that pavement condition index, this is really showing that we are responding to our citizen requests. The next one are trends in the metro. Oftentimes we like to take a look at what's happening around the metro area. Our managers we do a lot of communication professionally with each other. And one of the recent strings that was going around, email strings, was about 3 basic items about CIP projects, wage increases, and new hires. What we found is that most communities are not delaying any of their CIP projects. And one of the main reasons this came up is it had to do with COVID and some of the financial impacts there. But what we found is most communities are not doing any delays. Des Moines themselves, they are delaying a couple of projects, but by and large, for the most part, everybody's moving things forward. Wage increases are not being delayed. And we found out that the average wage increase is just shy of 3%. The final one, new hires. This one was about 50-50. About half of the communities out there are saying that they are going to either delay hires that are currently planned or they're delaying staff that they had planned in the next fiscal year. So talking about our some of the trends, this is taxable valuation growth. This takes into account the residential and commercial rollbacks. This is really the meat of the revenue for our municipal government. The red line represents our protected levies, meaning it's not impacted by TIF. The blue line shows the growth of our general fund. The gap between these two lines, as I see it, is a positive. It means our funds available for infrastructure and capital projects grows faster than our operations budget. Generally speaking, citizens interact with infrastructure on a daily basis. Better infrastructure, happy citizens. Also, when we use TIF to advance projects like Norwalk Central and the athletic complex, we are furthering amenities for our citizens. The next one is our 100% valuation. The blue line here is full 100% valuation. This represents how our community is growing. The trend beyond 2022 is a 3% line. This helps show you that we have healthy growth. You can see a difference between the rate growth from fiscal year 21 to 22. The difference there, you saw how we really had a pretty sharp upward growth in that previous fiscal year. This year, we saw it come in just a little bit flatter. Still some very healthy growth, but we had a number of large industrial projects that came online in that previous year that really jumped us up. These next two are kind of fun. One of City Council's goals within the strategic vision for 2028 is to grow our commercial industrial tax base. This slide, along with the next, will show those impacts. I'm going to go back and forth because it's kind of fun. You get to see our residential is dropping from 86% of our revenue source to 84%. And industrial is going from 4% up to 6%. So we are certainly heading in the right direction. And this is exactly how we want to continue. Holly continues to push for expansion of industrial development south of Norwalk, and during a recent economic development meeting in a number of other places where we can find to accommodate some of that light industrial growth. We are working hard with engineering to advance the infrastructure necessary to make that growth happen. I foresee that it will take a couple more years before we can move that needle further, given our strong residential growth. So now I'm going to talk about our enterprise funds. So that's our water, sewer, and storm sewer enterprise funds. Enterprise funds means our business accounts. There's a lot going on with these graphs, so let me explain. The sharp red line shows our overall revenue growth for each fiscal year, along with our prediction estimates for fiscal year 22, of which we are seeing, again, healthy growth. The variable colors below show monthly usage. The light green line is fiscal year 21, which includes one of the worst droughts we have seen in many years. This massive usage caused some pain for Norwalk and Des Moines Waterworks. It has led to a significant bump in rates, along with a blended water rate for calendar year 21. We are frustrated about the issue of a blended rate for calendar year 21 because we exceeded our purchase capacity. We estimate the blended rate will result in about $70,000 of added cost for Norwalk customers. But the usage that caused us to exceed our purchase capacity just from the top 3 months, I only use the top 3 months, was over $220,000 of additional revenue. So subtract out the $70,000 that needs to go to Des Moines Waterworks for our wholesale rates, and our enterprise fund is $150,000 above estimates. This would cover 2 years of a blended rate. My point is that we really need to understand that the blended rate is not a penalty, and we shouldn't be viewed as such. I'm not saying it is an incentive, not saying it's a good thing, but rather I'm saying it shouldn't scare us or cause us to change our path. Also, note that these revenues are used when calculating necessary rate adjustments in the future. Higher revenue means lower rate increases. On the sanitary sewer side, there is a similar stable growth, and that red line is the same thing. That's us estimating what our growth and revenues will be. I'm wondering if there's any questions about this particular graph compared to the previous one. If anybody needs a hint, you might look at that light green line and wonder why it looks different than water. Shouldn't they match closer? One thing that we found out when I was looking at this, that jumped right out at me, and our staff helped me do some digging, and what we found out is our largest consumer, Michael Foods, actually had delayed a payment. Something happened in their accounts payable, and the payment didn't come in until the next month. And that full payment, the way our system works is it applied it towards the water first to fully pay that off. So it showed up as in the water graph, but it doesn't yet show up in the sewer graph until the following month. So there's a reason behind that. Part of what that is teaching me is if I'm looking at trends, that water number is probably one of the most important to look out for. The next one is our storm sewer budget. This one is pretty stable, and it really just goes to show that our that stable growth is really a reflection of us adding between 200 and 250 homes per year. Now I want to talk about reserves. Our general fund reserve policy is 30%. It is being met, and it will continue to be met through the end of fiscal year 22. We plan for purposeful use of reserves. We have reserves because, number one, our staff is cautious. Number two, the growth of our community helps make it happen. And third, we do not follow the adage, use it or lose it. Our department heads do a great job of planning accordingly. They know that anything could happen throughout the year, so they may delay some purchases to the end of the year. But what we don't see from our departments is a rush to go out and spend the remaining part of their budget if they have been efficient throughout the year. So a huge kudos to them. Our reserves are meeting our policy goals in every fund. You see some large reserves and you might be concerned. So let me explain. Key things to note when looking at reserves. Reserves fluctuate as we save up and then spend down. Reserves help with our bond rating also. Overall, our reserves are healthy and allowing us to advance maintenance work and other projects. Just keep in mind that use of reserves doesn't closely match the years when reserves are generated, meaning some years these balances look high, but we anticipate use in the coming years. And by the way, if anybody has questions through this, please just interrupt me. This graph shows our housing trends. In the past, we did not include multifamily, so I've added that as we are seeing more of those projects move forward. Here are a few things we noticed from 2020. First of all, smaller lots prompted some of the higher construction numbers. These would be some of the 45 and 50 foot lot widths that allowed a different price point of homes to be constructed. It was interesting that with discussions of other metro managers, I found that this trend is not unique to Norwalk. They are seeing similar type lot sizes and developments happen in their communities as well. More apartments are coming. I don't believe it's anything for you folks to be alarmed about, but we are seeing some ramp up in some of those requests. COVID did impact Norwalk, certainly as it did many communities. There was a lot of negatives. However, I will say there were some offshoots of COVID that were positive, and it was primarily in terms of housing starts. We're seeing more at-home offices, and this has led to upgrades. What I heard one developer say, which I thought was a good way to put it, people are starting to purchase quality of life. And with that, in large part, their biggest purchase is their home, and that's where they're making some upgrades. And it doesn't hurt that interest rates have been so low. Now for the base wage adjustment. My recommendation for the base wage adjustment is 3%. This is 0.5% higher than the past few years. This was a tough decision given the rough year we all experienced in 2020. Ultimately, I decided to follow my own personal professional policy of balancing the wage increases granted to unions and using that as my guide. In the past couple of years, I have diverted and recommended lower base wages because of the catch-up work that we have been doing with wages. In other words, as a government official, I was uncomfortable with higher increases given public perception. The first 2 years that I was in Norwalk, I followed my professional policy and I took that average of what the two unions, in other words, if we give one a 2% and the other one a 3%, it would average as 2.5%, and that was my recommendation as base wage. I did that for the first 2 years that I was here. For fiscal year 20 and 21, I recommended 1% lower. Actually, it was more than 1%, respectively, and we landed at 2.5% for those 2 years. For fiscal year 22, I am recommending 3%. But there is a caveat. We have done a great job of working towards competitive wages with our brother and sister communities, of which we track on an annual basis. Now that we have achieved competitive levels, I believe we can make adjustments to our wage matrix. The wage matrix is used to determine salary increases, and it's based on several different items, of which include performance and where somebody falls within that wage range. Next year, I expect the wage increases will be lower due to those adjustments. The Admin Policy Committee will see this in more detail over the next several months, and those changes will come to City Council for consideration. Next, we're going to talk about some of the major factors of city finance. Jean and I spend significant time strategizing finances for Norwalk. We want to be a lean organization. We felt that looking forward beyond 1 year provides more guidance. The result was a 5-year budget. When we completed our analysis, there were 3 main factors that stood out as having the most significant impact. Many of you have already heard this at various committee meetings. The reason I am restating is for the public watching this video. The 3 factors are, and this is in order of impact, growth rate, staffing levels, which is primarily full-time staff, and levy changes. I see the conversion didn't work so good with the word growth. Sorry about that. Growth is the #1 most significant impact on our budget. Growth helps us achieve all those things citizens ask for. The challenge is growth is perceived as taking away our small town feel. Mayor and City Council, you all developed a strategic vision of which maintaining a small town feel was a priority. We have hometown pride, of which Norwalk City Government is a key player. We have Front Porch Norwalk. We're working on Norwalk Central, and it's being designed to bring people together. We are also exploring new urbanism concepts to further the neighborhood feel that many of us remember as kids. There are many other strategies we use to balance interests and fulfill our purpose statement, which is to preserve and improve why people want to live and work in Norwalk. Staffing is our next factor impacting finance. There is an art to balancing staffing needs, government efficiency, and meeting the needs of citizens and businesses. As we grow, so too do the demands of staff. Our approach is, first of all, have a plan. This is shown in this graph in general, although our staffing plan is detailed and it covers each department. Next, we want to ensure staffing requests come with justification, and data is the key. And finally, think critically. Is there anything else we can do? Are there other methods of service delivery? We do have a plan, and it is used for long-range budget planning. The last item are tax levy changes. This is really the easiest one to explain. Lower the levy, and we have less dollars in our budget. Jean will be presenting fiscal year 22 budget having a levy reduction. Albeit minor, it is a reduction. And let me clarify something. Lower levy means lower dollars for city government, but more dollars in the pockets of our citizens and businesses. The last item I have is strategic thinking. This past year, our department heads and several other members of our management team participated in strategic planning sessions. Each department now has a strategic plan that reflects 1-year goals, 3 to 5-year goals, and a 10-year vision. These can be found in the full budget document. Are there any questions for me? If not, I am going to turn it over to Jean Furler, or Jean Kelly. Sorry, Jean.
No problem. Thank
Nice
you.
presentation, Luke. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I thought before I jump into the CIP, I would just a few notes to follow Luke's presentation. Just to let you know, the state establishes a rollback each year, and this year it increased 1.33%. So it went up from a little over 55% to a little over 56%. So this means even if Norwalk's rate remains stable, taxes will increase slightly due to the rollback going up. Total values for Norwalk increased to 78.9 million. General fund taxable value, so when I say 78 million, that's 100% assessed value. Our general fund taxable value, and this subtracts the rollback and the TIF, is 23.1 million, or 5%. If we're looking at a dollar amount, this means $187,000 to work with within our general fund for any new items or increases in existing items. Finally, 189 million of that total value will be diverted for debt payments. This means we're doing projects and investing in Norwalk's infrastructure, which is a high priority according to the last citizen survey. So I think we're moving in the right direction. Just want to follow up some of those things that came to mind while Luke was presenting. CIP, I'll jump into that. You have the reports in front of you. Few minor changes have been made, and I will address those. The Finance Committee, we met in December to review the CIP. The 5-year plan total amount is $86.6 million. That's for all funds, including enterprise funds. The committee did focus mainly on fiscal year 22, which totals about 21.1 million in projects. The debt projects total 14.2 million. Note that 7.8 are considered allowable for TIF repayment debt. You will note we did update this. We did change. We categorized debt as GO or TIF. But I really do want to make it clear that this is all GO debt and all subject to our 10 million calendar year non-taxable IRS guidelines. So even though we're categorizing it different, it is general obligation debt of the city. The reason we decided to categorize the debt in this manner is to show which projects could be abated utilizing TIF taxes. Doing this does have a direct effect on our general fund. The more TIF we utilize means the more general fund taxes get diverted for that use. The funding by sources and the CIP by departments, those reports that you received, the totals for each year, like fiscal year 22 to 26, may not necessarily match year to year. One report is the year of funding, and the other report is the year the project is to be constructed or purchased. So those can be different. I'll give you an example. In Public Works, Highway 28 and Beardsley intersection improvements, you will see in projects by funding source, we are planning to issue 1.8 million in debt for that project in fiscal 22, but we only show 200,000 in the department projects. We are borrowing the funds in fiscal 22, but completing the project in 2023 in conjunction with some grant funds, and trying not to issue debt every year. So being on that every other year schedule, that could happen. Another project, another example is the Great Western Trail. And this one probably looks a little confusing on the screen or on the reports. So the amount required for completing the project shows 1.26 million in GO debt. But if you look at the department CIP, it shows 960,000. So just to clarify, engineering and the first portion of construction for this project totals 1.72 $1,720,000. The city borrowed 1.5 million in 2020 of 1.5 million. At that time, we had no idea what the cost would be for the entire project, and we needed to restructure our 2028 debt. And this number we determined would be sufficient to get that project moving forward. Since that time, the engineer has estimated the total project will be $2,760,000 to complete all phases. So that's why the financing shows 1.260. And the project shows 960,000 because if you look in the detail sheets, the prior amount will show 1.8 million. So in the detail sheets, if you look at them, the expenditures will add across and the funding sources will add across. And so hopefully that will help clarify that a little bit. Another item that came up in between you getting the reports and some communication with Luke or myself was rural water and that 60,000 annual transfer that we do from the water fund for rural water acquisition. Originally, we thought that it would be over $1 million to purchase territory. And so I thought, well, 60,000 transferring every year isn't really going to make that much of a difference. If we need to do that, then we issue debt and purchase that. Well, since a few years ago, it's really what we've been doing is just small acquisitions. Last year, we purchased 32,000. We are scheduling 82,000 in 2024. So right now it does make sense. So I have updated that in Planet, and we will continue to do the transfer if necessary in the future. Right now, this fund will have about 240,000 at the end of the year. If we do need to issue debt, we could utilize the balance of this fund to offset any new debt. Okay, so the next thing I want to touch on is being able to pay for these projects. I believe it can be accomplished with our current values and our tax revenues coming in at the rate they are. However, if the city does not continue to grow at the current pace, then we would have to pull back on future projects. Our growth for debt service is 10% this year. I know you might be thinking, I thought you said our growth was 5%. Well, that's for the general fund. Debt service is not subject to TIF, so it keeps pace with what our growth really is, which is 10%. If you're favorable to approving the projects as presented, the city may need to consider a policy regarding debt structure. So we try to maintain all debt within a 10-year time frame. Reasonable, makes sense. However, useful life of a project could be a consideration when determining a payment schedule. The Western Water Feeder Main is a great example of this. We used a 20-year structure due to the useful life of that project. The interest rates at the time were really good, as they are now. And we took into consideration future water increases. If we spread that out, they wouldn't be such huge increases. Also think that maybe development projects utilizing TIF should also be reviewed for longer payback periods. Obviously, you can't go more than 20 years. I don't think we ever should anyway, due to sunset laws. But just to give you an example, the new athletic complex, if that is valued at $20 million, as is estimated right now, TIF taxes from that would generate about $560,000. If the city incurs $4 million in debt for infrastructure and facilities cost, as stated in this plan, a 10-year schedule would cost us about $434,000 annually of that $560,000. If we extend it to that 20-year period, we're looking at about $230,000. If the plan is to provide incentives beyond infrastructure, it would be difficult to maintain a 10-year debt payment plan. I have been speaking with my fellow finance directors in the Metro and other communities that are growing they are extending payment schedules just to keep up with the amount of growth and projects that they have as well. Just to give you an example, Urbandale just issued $16 million for a sports complex. Those are popular things. They did a 20-year schedule. And of course, since it was over 10 million, it was a taxable rate, 1.59%, insane low. But that's a sign of the times right now. So obviously another thing we probably should look at are interest rates. Another factor that I always look at when we are looking at overall projects is our debt capacity and our internal limit. With these projects, the city will continue to be well below that 75% internal limit established by elected officials. Also in this CIP includes maintenance type CIP items. We do have bigger projects in there, but we do put maintenance items in there that are actually funded by revenues from the water. So like if we do meter replacements, we actually take that out of water revenues. We don't issue debt for those. So those are some of the items in here. We also have TIF and TIF LMI projects are included in it. And then last, I will say Lost has been a godsend to Norwalk. Since inception through December 2020, we have received $4.4 million. Lost has made it so we can purchase equipment, do smaller projects, spend more money on street maintenance without acquiring additional debt or just simply going without. Those projects are listed on page 2 of the projects by funding source. And then as well, you received a spreadsheet that shows kind of the history of Lost, and it shows the balances at the bottom. We try to maintain a 5% reserve at all time. But with COVID, we believe people were ordering more things online with the online sales tax going into effect. They do a true up every November, and last year I think they trued it up and we were an additional 100,000 to the good. This year we were 300,000. So that fund is looking pretty healthy, but boy, we have the projects to spend it. So that is our plan. We did lower the revenues for next year, anticipating that there won't be as many online sales, but we'll see how that goes. So with that, I would entertain any questions.
Jean, I still have a question. This is Stephanie on the Great Western Trail, but do you want me to wait until we get to that picture, that part?
I think this would be a great time to talk about it.
Okay, so if I'm adding up things, it's $1,720,000 has been spent so far, and there's $960 left to go. So that makes it $2,680,000. Where are you coming up with the $2,760,000?
Well, we rounded the 1,720 to 1.8 million. And then
that would do it.
We added some contingency there. So that's why it says in that budget CIP 1.8 million prior, we added some contingency to that.
Okay, I was wondering where the 1.8 came from. Okay, so
Sorry for the confusion.
So if there were, I mean, it's nice to have the contingency, but that's a big number. So that's like $79,000, $80,000. So if we needed to have money for something else, I just want to point out the fact that could be, you could maybe take some from there.
Yes, it would have to be for something similar. So like the Greenways plan would be perfect, where we wouldn't have to go back and do a public hearing to reapply those somewhere else. With that type of project, we could just do it.
Right. So, and part of those funds actually were spent last year on doing the Colonial Parkway crossing on Highway 28, correct?
Actually, we issued bonds for that project. It wasn't quite enough, so we had to use a little bit of reserves, but we had some money left over from North Avenue rehab that we were able to utilize.
Okay, thank you.
I just had a quick question, Jane. On grants and stuff that we receive, how are those reflected in your numbers?
There is a section. There's a section on page 2 that shows any grant funding sources on the projects by funding source. Are you able to see that? There it is. You're on mute.
Sorry, I see it.
Okay, perfect.
Just for your information, every time a display comes up, it blows me off the screen, so I have to come back and get back on the screen again. So if there's a delay,
Okay,
thank you.
you bet. Any other questions?
None from me, Jean. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, in my opinion, I think the online purchases will only increase for next year. Just a prognostication. Good presentation.
Thank you. Mayor, would you like us to start with the department presentations?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start with administration, and maybe we'll get to the library before we need to break.
Okay. Luke, would you mind pulling the administration up on the screen, and I'll go through that. I'll start with the Executive Administration Fund. This includes, excuse me, 25% of the city manager's wages and the elected officials' wages, any education, training, and then any consultants' fees as well related to that area. The finance budget includes 50% of the finance director's wage and 40% of the city clerk's wages, any education and training as well. We do have PFM's fees input in there. And actually the biggest line item for that budget is the general liability and property insurance. And that's just paid once a year, and that's for the entire city. But I will note that Public Works does transfer money into our general fund to pay for their portion. They pay $40,000 out of water, 40 out of sewer, and 20 out of stormwater. The City Hall portion of that budget covers 20% of the city clerk's wages and 40% of our HR payroll person, and any kind of education or training for any of the staff at City Hall. The utility billing person and the administrative assistant and some of the HR, and actually a little bit of mine and Lindsay's, are all split between a portion of those enterprise funds. Utility billing, all of that comes out of water, sewer, and stormwater. This budget also covers 90% of any of the building maintenance of City Hall. And then items like accounting, auditing, and printing and publication expenses are also included. We did include $60,000 this year for our roof. We were trying to put that off to see what we were going to do with an expansion, but we're not sure we can put it off much longer. We're hoping it's not that much, but that would be lost funds as a transfer in. The next item on this budget is IT. Tim and his department just keep getting busier. We have a lot going on. The biggest item on there, I try to list them all individually so you can get an idea of what we spend in that area. Cybersecurity is one of our bigger projects, and we're using lost money to offset that one. The other general fund budget in here covers animal control, garbage, and other public works items. You will note, and I just made this change, and I meant to mention that earlier, but I mention it now. The sidewalk gap program. It's the very last item in capital improvements in the other public works. I actually reallocated that money to greenways. We had this program in place before greenways and decided it's definitely a redundancy. So we combine those projects and we put the funds in greenways. So that 75,000 will be in that fund. Another other general fund is Health and Human Services budget. I put 51,000 in there just simply based on our requests. Norwalk Sanitary requested 8,000. Impact Warren County requested 5,000. They serve approximately 500 Norwalk individuals a year and asked for $10 per person. Thought was very reasonable. Mid-Iowa Homeless Shelter, 9,000. Norwalk Nice, we're setting aside 5,000 for that. That's been a good program. That was COVID related. HERDA requested 24,000. This was a project that Luke, you would have to give details on. Can you help me out with that one?
Sorry, I had to find where my mute button was at. Actually, at one point in time, we were doing that pilot program for transportation to and from job locations here in town. However, this request from HERDA is just looking for our general support for that organization to provide more busing service in general to Norwalk.
Thank you. Also, 22 will be an election year, so I put election costs in there, local election, I should say. And then legal services, we put in for Jim's time, and then if we have any other miscellaneous that go in there. Finally, just general fund revenue, I always put in there so you can look at that. The biggest thing is our property taxes come through there. And now we have transfers in from lost, which are very helpful. And we got about $1 million, actually about 781,000 coming in from lost, 100,000 I mentioned for public works, and then TIF funds. So, excuse me, the auditor suggested that instead of economic development having a separate fund, that they be included in our general fund with a transfer from TIF. Sounds like more work, but honestly, it's actually a little bit cleaner. Their wages were being paid out of general fund, so it really wasn't that big of a jump. And that's all I have, unless you have questions regarding any of those items, anything on the administration budget. If there are no questions, it looks like the library is up next.
All right, welcome and thank you for being here. My name is Jean Bosch and I'm the library director, and I would like to thank the council and the administration and the city staff and our community for all of the support of the library over the years. We have a really wonderful library, and I don't really want to talk about any of the challenges that we've had during this past year because we all know what they are and we don't really want to hear about them anymore. So I did want to add in a little note that I received from one of my staff today that was an interaction she had with one of our patrons who was doing curbside pickup. Just real quick, the patron was gushing about what an amazing job we are doing during the pandemic. She is so thankful for the ways we have adapted to serve our community, and is especially thankful for the take-home kits, which are the craft and activity kits for all ages, that she does with her stepkids, as well as the hotspots, which have been a lifesaver for her and her family. She is working from home right now, and her internet is very spotty, so she's able to check out one of these little hotspots, and it gives her unlimited internet access for a few weeks, and it's completely free to our patrons. So I just wanted to share that because it's just a few of the ways that we have been able to help our citizens during this trying time. Given that we had a lot of challenges, I do think that we've had a lot of accomplishments, so I wanted to highlight some of those. Last year, you did give us more funding for additional staff, so we were able to start working with the assisted living centers. And in addition to that, we had also hoped to be able to go out to festivals and farmers markets and other places to promote and provide library services, but unfortunately the pandemic has put that on pause for now. And as I mentioned earlier, we have been providing the hotspots, so that's free internet access. We have 11 of those that we do check out, and they're in circulation and out of the building and in use almost all of the time, which is really helpful to our citizens. In addition, we also have debuted a series of kits for young people. A lot of them are STEM kits, which are science, technology, engineering, and music. And they help the children with their learning outside of school and a lot of hands-on learning. And so we're happy to help parents and teachers with those, since schooling has been a challenge this year as well. We've also added a collection of board games and jigsaw puzzles, so people have appreciated being able to utilize those during this time. We added launch pads, which are preloaded gaming pads that have an educational slant to them as well, and those have been much appreciated by parents and kiddos. We did have to transition from in-person programming to online programming, and that has been not as successful as the in-person because people really like to come to the library and get together. But we have been able to do some successful trivia challenges, a lot of story times, some book clubs, and some other innovative things. One of our most popular things has been providing take and make activities. So utilizing the programming budget that we do have, we've been able to put together some craft kits and some different activities for all ages, and people get very excited about those, and they pretty much all go probably within days from when we announce that they're available. We also did take advantage of this time because we really realized we needed to have a new, more modern website. So we did update our website, and we've gotten some really good feedback with that. Internally, we did have some work that we've completed as well. We're very proud that we've gotten our written procedures for a lot of our internal processes, like processing books and cataloging and giving people library cards. Just having all of those things written out helps us provide better customer service because of consistency. In addition to that, we did hire a new director. That would be me, and I'm pleased to be here and hope it's all working out. And I think overall, we've been very nimble and responsive during the pandemic. We've gone through the closure, we've gone through providing phone and email service only, then we reopened with limitations, and currently we're on curbside. But no matter what it is that we've been doing, we've been trying to give the best possible customer service to our citizens, and I think that's really important, and we're dedicated to that. Luke, I don't know if you want to bring up the library proposed budget there. It's not a lot of changes from the current year that we're in. I did want to mention there are some things that are additions. The association dues, we did add some funding in for that, and that would cover the 4 full-time staff that we have. It would pay for their professional associations to belong to 1 national association and 1 state association. And we feel like that's a really important thing to support our associations, but we also get a lot of learning out of that and a lot of sharing. And we feel like we've been able to network and get ideas from a lot of our fellow librarians in other communities. And so having those memberships is really helpful. And going further down, the programming budget does have an increase there. And this is very helpful for consideration because we feel like doing the online things, there is a small cost to some of those things. And in addition to that, the take and makes do have a cost. We don't charge for any of the activities that are going out of the building. All that we do here is free. And that means a lot to our patrons because right now a lot of folks are having financial difficulties, and so it's a stretch for them to be able to afford much of anything. So we try to provide them with free public library services. And the what we're kind of finding out is that we've been able to reach out to some new folks and a lot of parents who are usually working in the office and outside the home now have figured out that we have these take and makes. And so they've been asking, well, when you go back to regular services, are you still going to do these? So we would like to be able to do that, and this would help defray the cost of doing that. And further down, there is an increase for books and DVDs. And pretty much materials costs go up every year. We never really know how much they'll be going up, but we do have a steady use of the print materials and the physical DVD and audio materials. So having a modest increase there would really help us to serve our patrons so they wouldn't have to go to other libraries in the metro area to get those things. And I don't know if anyone has any questions. I'm happy to entertain any of those.
I just might add, if you're looking at that spreadsheet, I just noticed some of your re-estimated numbers are not on there, but they are in my master document. So I did update that.
Okay. And we are, I did want to mention the capital improvement project of a digital sign. One of the other new things that I neglected to mention is we have started offering notary services, and that has been extremely popular during COVID because a lot of people are updating their wills and their other paperwork. And we've been finding that a lot of people come in and they're like, we had no idea where you were. And they just didn't see the sign because it's original to the building and it's old and it's faded and it's very small. So we're hoping to improve our visibility with a digital sign.
Will that be out by the pond?
It'll be in the same location where it is, yes.
Okay. Anything else for Jean? Or Jean? Super, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. I think since it is 5:58, we'll hold off on Park and Rec, and we'll do that maybe after this meeting. I think we'll just go ahead and go into the regular council meeting at this point in time, since it's close enough to 6. Like to welcome everybody who's online with us tonight. We'd like to open up the microphones for any public comment that you might have. This would be for non-agenda items. We'll give you a 3-minute time limit. We can't take action on any of these tonight since they're not on the agenda. Also, if you'd like to comment on any item in the consent agenda, now would be the time as well. So do we have any takers for anybody who would like to address council? Hearing none, I think we will just go ahead and move on. Item 6 is our consent agenda. We have approval of the December 17th, 2020 minutes of the regular city council meeting, have expenditures, tax abatements, a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement with Pro Circular for cybersecurity testing and risk assessment. We have resolution to approve change order number 1, final pay estimate and certificate of completion for the Main Street and North Avenue intersection improvements project. And we have a resolution setting January 21st, 2021 for a public hearing regarding a CDBG grant for community Wi-Fi. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Livingston, second by Riva. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Riva,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item 7A, well, item 7 is old and new business for consideration, discussion, and possible action. A is approval for Parks and Recreation to purchase a tractor from the fiscal 21 budget. So Park and Rec would like to move up their purchase of a new tractor from fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 21. This is due to the deteriorating condition of the current tractor and will use sales tax dollars to pay for the purchase this year. Robin, do you have anything to add?
No, I do not.
Okay. Any discussion or comments, questions from council? Or any public?
What becomes of the old tractor? Just curious.
Yeah, we actually have a trade-in value of $8,000 on the existing tractor, so we would trade that in.
Good question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Motion?
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Livingston, second by Lester. Any other discussion? All right, Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item B is resolution accepting infrastructure parkland agreement and approving the final plat of Timber Ridge Plat Number 1. So this is the new development to the south of G14 and to the east of Silverado. Wayne, does everything look good with the infrastructure?
That's what the engineers are saying. They recommend approval.
All right, super. Luke, you got anything to add?
No, sir. Just wanted to mention real quick in the packet, just if there was any kind of confusion on it. There's Exhibit A, and then 5 pages after that, that's the preliminary plat that's being referenced in the parkland agreement. And then the actual final plat that we're approving is the last 3 pages of the agenda statement. So that'll be what's recorded. So those are the 69 lots. It consists of basically the western half of this development.
All right. Any discussion, question, comments from council?
And this is the development that met with so much resistance from surrounding residents. Is that correct? Or do I have my developments wrong?
No, that's correct. The residents of Silverado to the west of this development were the ones that objected.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Can I get a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Baker and second by Reva. Any further discussion? Or any public comment? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
No.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Item C is a resolution approving the site plan of Mid-American Gas Pipeline Inspection Facility. So Mid-American would like to change where the access drive is for their testing site. Where is this in relation to the Veterans Memorial?
It is farther to the east along North Avenue.
Okay. Luke, do you got anything to add?
No, just that's a pretty simple shift in their driveway from the current location that's kind of on the edge of it, the western edge, kind of centering it a little bit more. And then there is some, I think, culvert work that they're adding with it.
Okay. Any discussion or comments from council? Questions? Or any public comment? Can I get a motion?
Baker motions.
Second, Livingston.
All right. Motion by Baker, second by Livingston. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item D is resolution approving an agreement accepting a surety for parkland finalization at the Blooming Heights Plat 2 parkland area. So the developer of Blooming Heights would like to proceed with their development, but the current weather conditions make it difficult to finish the park. So they'd like us to accept a surety for the completion of the park. Luke, anything to add?
That's it in a nutshell. The dollar amount is about $5,200 for the seating and grading.
Okay. Questions, comments, discussion from council? Any public comment? Can I get a motion?
Motion, Reva.
Second, Livingston.
Okay, motion by Reva, second by Livingston. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. So since item E is resolution accepting infrastructure and approving the final plat of Bloomington Heights Plat 2. So since we accepted the surety for the park, this resolution accepts the rest of the infrastructure and approves the final plat for Bloomington Heights Plat 2. This is going to allow the developer to start building houses. Wayne, how's everything look out there for infrastructure?
And we're recommending approval.
Thank you. Luke, anything to add?
Just so this is a good, nice piece of the puzzle in our Western development to get built. The transportation road connections there of Redbud and Blooming Heights Drive mean that we'll have a second egress out of Timber Views development. So now those folks will be able to not only go out to G14, but they'll be able to go through this neighborhood to the east and access 50th. So it's good to have that kind of second egress of the whole area. And likewise, the Blooming Heights Plat 1 can head to the west if they so desired.
All right, great. Any discussion, comments, questions from council? Any public comment? Anybody want to make a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Jackie. Yeah.
Or second, David.
Okay, so motion by Livingston, second by Lester. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item F is a resolution approving amendment to the Norwalk Commercial Improvement Incentive Program in the city of Norwalk, Iowa. So this is to add the demolition of existing buildings to the incentive program. So where there's an existing building that's stopping development, this could be just the incentive needed to proceed with the project, get rid of a dilapidated building and get something new in there. Holly, you got anything to add?
Just that this program's been really successful. We have helped renovate, I want to say 10 buildings now of older structures. And, you know, we've seen an increase in value on those smaller facilities of about $300,000 and over $2 million of local investment. So just to kind of clean up Highway 28 and some of the older dilapidated structures, this would really help with the expense, the cost of removing those older buildings in order to replace them with new commercial facilities. To make that an eligible expense towards this grant program, that would be very helpful for redevelopment.
All right. Questions, comments, discussion from council?
This by itself doesn't change any funding levels, does it, Mayor? The way I read it, it just adds this new authorization within it. Is that right?
I
Correct.
believe that's, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What was that right, Holly?
Yes.
Okay. Thought so. Any others? Any public comment? Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Baker, second by Cool. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8, council inquiries and staff updates. Jim, let's start with you. Got to be unmuted.
There we go. Found it. I have nothing after all that.
All that for nothing.
That's right.
David.
I don't have anything tonight.
All right, Jackie. No? Okay. Ed. Ed's waving his hand no too. Luke Paris.
I won't break that streak. I'll say I've got nothing.
Oh, okay. I don't think is Tony with us tonight? I don't think he is.
Nope.
I don't see him. All right, Wayne.
Wanted to let you know in case you get calls or people hit you up. We're having problems with 2 traffic signals, the one at Cherry and the highway and Colonial Parkway and the highway, the detector loops. We have some issues with them. We're trying to get them fixed. It may have to wait till spring, but we're aware of it in case anybody bothers you about it. Thank you.
Okay. Great job on snow removal, by the way.
Thank you.
Chief Coburn. You in here?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Chief Staples.
Just quickly, the last snow event, we issued 23 snow tickets and we towed 3 cars. This year, I've decided based on complaints from previous years that repeat offenders on snow tickets can get their car towed. And so that happened this year. And that allowed Public Works to come in and clean out the street where the cars were after they had finished plowing. And then last year's capital improvement plan budgeted money for security enhancement upgrades at the 4 city buildings. That's key card access or electronic door access, and then security videos. We have quotes from 2 vendors, and we have 3/4 of the quote from a third. So once we get that one in, we'll compare them all and make a decision and get that installed. That's all I got.
Great, thank you.
Chief, incidentally, where do those cars go? Just curious.
They get towed to Roy's Towing, and they're held there.
Okay.
When the people call, if the people call to say their car was stolen, dispatch will inform them it was actually towed and tell them where it is.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Gene Kelly.
Do not have anything. Thank you.
All right. You talked enough already tonight?
For sure.
Holly.
Just a couple things. On the 21st, we have a work session coming up to discuss the sports campus project and the progress with that and some of the details so that we can move on to the next step with the developers. And this is different in case anybody gets confused when we talk about the sports campus. It's not Robin's sports project. This is different. So this is the one that would be within the Norwalk Central Hughes Century Crossing area. So that will be exciting to talk about. And then Cobblestone Hotel, that's still moving forward. We just are waiting to hear back from the DOT on some right of way that they need for that project to be able to move forward. So everybody keep their fingers crossed. And then the last thing is we have another new chain restaurant we're working with. So maybe we'll have something in the next month to present to the council for that. So that's it.
Great, thank you. Jean Bosch.
Nothing further for me tonight.
All right. Robin?
Just want to let everyone know that the ice rink is open, and just watch for the green and red light. Red light means it's obviously too slushy and we can't use it. Green light means it's good to use.
All right, thank you. Lindsay?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Okay, Stephanie?
No, except happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you. Brian?
I've got nothing.
Luke?
Real quickly, the odor issue of what we were dealing with, we continue to deal with WRA. Wayne did some follow-up with them after we had a little bit of odor that went past the date when they said. They explained that after they ran the facility, the diversion, They normally use potable water to flush out the force main. They believe that they did not get all of the old sewage out and it went septic. So after we gave them notice, they came back, did some additional flushing. But they did go on to tell us that they are continuing to gather data. And as they move forward, they still want to work on that odor control system. That's all I have.
Let's hope they figure it out.
They still want to work on it, or they will work on it?
They are working on it.
Okay.
I'm reading their email that they just sent.
Okay. Well, that's good. Just a couple updates from me. I'm continuing. I watch the statewide COVID numbers daily, and looking at the Warren County pretty much daily as well. We'll probably make a decision on indoor park and rec and opening city buildings on Wednesday. If things still continue to trend the way they are, don't expect to open up, for us to open back up. So just to let you know. Secondly, we have virtual community chat on Saturday at 9 o'clock. You're more than welcome to sit in and participate. That'd be great. That's all I have. A question would be, at 6:17, I'd kind of like to get some more of these budget presentations banged out. What's everybody's think?
Budget.
Budget.
Let's get it done and take a 5-minute break if we can before we start into.
You want to do a 5-minute break right now?
Sure. Then we can finish up everything else after that.
That sounds good. So we'll take a 5-minute break. Let's make 8-minute break. We'll be back at 6:25.
Got it.
All right, is everybody back?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So let's go ahead and we'll restart. It is 6:25. Robin, you are up for Park and Rec.
Okay. Hello, everybody. So one of the things I want to bring to your attention right away, which doesn't really show in our budget spreadsheets, but is the mowing contract that we brought in-house. I plan to bring to you in the future a short presentation on how we did with those budget numbers, but wanted to let you guys know we were very successful and ended up saving a lot of money. So, and on top of saving money, I'm very pleased with the job that we did and the fact that we were able to control the quality of work that was done. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention first. Then the other thing, just kind of going through the budgets. The parks budget, there is an increase in our salary and wages line item. And what I'm asking for with that increase is just for support for a recommendation that I'm going to bring forward to give a promotion to Dakota, who currently is a park technician, and I'm looking to promote him to be a park supervisor. I will update that job description and bring that to you guys at a future council meeting for final approval, but that is part of that increase that you see there in salaries and wages for full-time employees in the parks budget. Capital expenses that you see in the parks fund and also the pool fund. Those were items that Jean did talk about in her CIP presentation. There's really not much of a change in the recreation and the pool budget, but in the complex budget, you will see an increase in, sorry, Lindsay. You'll see an increase in electric and operating supplies line item, and those are a reflection of the maintenance facility that is in the CIP request items. Other than that, there's not really much change in my budget. If you guys have questions on anything, I guess I'd open it up to answer any of those questions. Okay, and if there's no questions, I guess I just want to say thank you for the support that you guys provide our department. We are growing, and it's really exciting for all of us in our department, and we can't wait to get back up and running next year and have all the kids go through the programs again. So we kind of miss them.
I'll bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Fire and EMS, Chief Coburn.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. I just want to touch on a few things that we've had go on over the last year within these two budgets or our department. Last year, we were able to transition some of our part-time hours to an additional full-time position and fund 2 additional regular part-time paramedic positions with little or no impact to our line item as far as staffing goes. So in our department, we utilize a lot of part-time staffing and a lot of part-time staffing hours. So we were able to just convert some of those over to full-time and bring on some additional staff. We were also worked quite extensively to renegotiate and execute contracts with our neighboring communities for primarily EMS protection or EMS coverage. But we did update our contracts with Cumming and Spring Hill and soon to be Martinsdale, which I'll be bringing forward at the next council meeting, a proposal for support to them as well. We did have the pandemic, which necessitated us to transition our operations to some decontamination procedures and some additional equipment. But I'm pleased to say that throughout the pandemic over the past several months, we were able to not have any disruptions or delays or abbreviations or pauses in our delivery model. So we were able to keep everybody healthy up until this point and maintain our staffing levels and provide our services uninterrupted. Now we've got staff that are participating in the vaccination process. So hopefully we're getting well beyond those concerns at this point. We did purchase and install a locution system, which was a station alerting system to notify our responders throughout the building, and it's integrated with our CAD dispatching system or computer-aided dispatching system at Westcom. One thing that's gone on kind of behind the scenes, there hasn't been a whole lot of conversation about it, is you may have noticed there's a new radio tower that's been built south of Norwalk on the WRA site. This was a project that went on between the city of Norwalk, Westcom, the city of Des Moines, and Warren County to erect this 300-foot freestanding tower that will soon house Norwalk's infrastructure from the Westcom system, which will be relocated from the Norwalk water tower site to this freestanding tower, and will free up the water tower for space. I know that that's always somewhat of a concern, and it will also house infrastructure that will be supporting the city of West Des Moines, the Warren County Emergency Management and Emergency Services, as well as Westcom, as they all kind of meld into the same radio system through the ISIC system. So a couple of things to touch on with the CIP. We do have an ambulance and a fire engine. Both of those requests are coming within the cycle of our regular vehicle replacement policy and plans. So appreciate the consideration given to both of those, as both of those pieces of equipment that are being replaced are getting near the end of their life and becoming somewhat of a maintenance concern on both levels. As far as my budget goes, we have two budgets, the fire budget and the EMS budget, and I bring forward no increases with either one of them this year. So unless anybody has any questions, that's what I've got.
Chief, I just wanted to thank you and the city manager for the job you did on the contracts. I appreciate it and appreciate you getting that knocked out the way you did it. One question, and that is, what becomes of the old vehicles that we're replacing? Will they go as trade-ins, or how they get disposed of?
Yeah, both of them will either be traded or sold to offset the expense of the new vehicles.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ryan? You're not. Thank you, Ryan. I think the fire department's done a spectacular job this year with COVID, so kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
Yep. Next, police, Chief Staples.
Hi, thank you. First, I just want to say that as usual, Jean has done a fabulous job putting these numbers together. Whether you know it or not, she met with all of us, put it all together, and then had to change it all because of the county numbers coming in lower. And she was able to change it, at least on the police department side, without asking, and she did exactly what I would have done also. So her ability to make things work makes life on my end, and I'm sure all the other directors' ends, much easier. So we're very thankful for that. As far as 2020 goes, I can say that probably on the police's end, the biggest success was that we just survived it. As you know, it was a difficult year for police work in general. The officers came through that outstandingly. When we had our own issues this summer, everybody did a wonderful job. Interestingly enough, this was the year I had pegged to do a citizen survey. And we did that by phone. I don't have the results completely yet, but the tentative results are that there was no real change in citizen satisfaction of our performance from 2018. So I'll be very interested to get the final numbers once the intern comes back to work next week. Other successes were just with COVID-19. We had one officer get sick, but we never had it come inside the building. That officer that came up positive was on an extended break when he got sick and hadn't come back to work yet. With us out there in the public every day, I think that is just a tremendous testament to what the officers are doing to try and keep themselves safe and healthy. As you know, we've been planning on getting 2 officers out 24 hours a day. That was been a goal for my 7 years tenure here. We finally were able to accomplish that on September 28th. And it worked beautifully for 3 weeks until an officer hurt their knee. And we've been running with 18 officers since mid-October. It's still going fine. With the 18 people, we're able to move some things around and add some overtime shifts and get everything covered, and things still work well. And then lastly, I think one of the biggest successes we have was Cops with Carts. Even in a year where people didn't go to the grocery store a lot, in a year where the store was closed an hour early, I think the exact numbers are always a little difficult to come up with, but I think this was the best year ever, most efficient year ever by the food pantry itself. Just a tremendous success all in all. So with that, I'll move into the budget. The police department has one budget, and then there's a public safety budget, which is a combination of police and fire. The police budget has no real changes. There's only 2 items that have a significant amount of difference. That's holiday work pay. That's a line item that we've been slowly incorporating into the budget. Officers, when they work a holiday, get paid double time. There used to not be a line item for it. It was just paid out of overtime. I wanted to track it better, so we created a holiday line. It's a difficult category to figure out because depending on how many officers work on that particular holiday, it changes the amounts by the end of the year. For instance, most of the officers work on Wednesdays. So if there's a holiday on a Wednesday, then that holiday is way more expensive than if it was on a Thursday or a Sunday. Slowly, we've been able to get better at it. The increase is to 60,000, we think is going to be right on the money. And then you also notice that there's a decrease of $8,000 in the education and training line item. That's because we're not sending somebody to the academy because there are no staff increases in this budget. And then the 180 budget public safety is at the next page. We'll notice that 381,000 is payment to other agencies. That's Westcom, Homeland Security agreement with the city of Des Moines, and the computer access to the Iowa system that allows us to connect electronically to Westcom. One thing I do want to mention about the Westcom fee is that the amount budgeted is the total amount that Westcom anticipates needing. That includes all staff. They don't typically pay all their staff for the whole year, meaning if they have a staff increase and they don't get hired right away, or if somebody quits by the time they refill it, there's salary money that's not spent. So the amount to Westcom is always budgeted more than they generally spend. And then the other interesting fact about the Westcom budget is the amount per city is based on the city's population. Our percentage of population of the total Westcom population increased this year. Ours is increasing, obviously, because our population is going up, but ours is but so is everybody's population going up except Clive. So as Clive stagnates because they're landlocked and Norwalk continues to grow, our percentage by population will continue to go up. Luke and I have also spent some time with Westcom, and Westcom's in the process of creating a new governance agreement, and we are actively trying to get the funding model altered to take into consideration things other than population, such as valuation and or calls for service or number of police officers or something like that. And if we do that, that would decrease the amount we owe, as our number of valuation would be way lower compared to some of the other cities. So anyways, that is about all I have, unless there are questions.
Questions for Greg? You're not. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, economic development. Holly.
Hello. So I will just run through a few of our kind of major accomplishments this last year. So even though, like everybody, obviously the economy was, pretty impacted during COVID, but I'm staying positive because we still have a lot of projects that move forward. We did have some that were, delayed or indefinitely delayed. Sleep In Hotel was delayed for the time being because the primary investors in that hotel, the primary owners are Kosovars, and of course, they're kind of looking at America right now in a little bit of a different light for investment in general, but COVID, of course, held back the hotel industry, although we do have another hotel project in the works, thankfully. But other than that, we had a really busy year still trying to keep our existing businesses in action and alive and existing. And, it wasn't easy, but a lot of them just got creative and found new ways to stay in business and add new product lines and do things online. But still, even through this pandemic and everything that we went through last year, we did have 20 businesses that either started construction, moved to Norwalk, or opened brand new facilities in Norwalk last year. And I have a list if anybody wants that, but 20. I mean, that's still pretty good during a pandemic year for projects and businesses. And then for the business and grants and new incentive program that we have, we awarded $123,000, 214, actually to be exact, to 5 businesses this last year for their renovations. And really since the start of that program, it's been very successful, like we talked about earlier. But we have seen quite an increase in the value of those buildings that we've been helping over the last few years. So it's been a good return on investment. We also committed $46,242 in grant funds to another program for small businesses that was managed by the Greater Des Moines Partnership, specifically for small businesses impacted by COVID. So we were able to help another 5 businesses with that grant program this last year. We created the new First In incentive program for developers that would build the first commercial structure in a larger undeveloped area. So that will help with our larger projects coming online. We also created the High Quality Jobs Grant Program. So that helps with the employers that want to add new high quality jobs, which we're always looking for here. We received some grant funds that we applied for, about $43,000 worth for community improvement and beautification projects around town that you probably noticed happening. And then also it was our first full year for the first communications and marketing position. And so you probably saw an increase, a significant increase in the city promotions, notifications, news releases, upgraded city technology use, and then policy adoptions for the city logo and branding standards, as well as social media standards. And then just in terms of numbers for just from the new commercial and senior projects that started or completed in 2020, the community can expect to see benefits over the next several years of more than $80 million on local project investment and more than 200 new jobs. And also a significant increase in daytime population and traffic counts, which will help Norwalk qualify for new businesses and branded chain retailers, restaurants, and entertainment venues. We'll have about 10 commercial projects and foreign relation related initiatives underway that should happen in 21 and 22. So with that being said, I'll just move over to the budget unless anybody has any questions about those. So in our budget this year, pretty much everything is really stayed about the same. There are a few changes. You will notice a little bit of an increase, of course, in our salaries, and that's just salary increases. Plus, we had the first full year of our new whole position in communications. And then we also added a part-time temp help budget that is for our intern. We almost always have an intern helping out in economic development, but usually it's a program that's paid for outside of the city, which has been nice. But this one we're actually paying for right now, and she's basically covering for Shelby while she's gone for communications. We did have an increase a little bit in the payment for services, and that is because we added in $15,000 for the 4th of July celebration and fireworks. And then also we have Hometown Pride in there. And we had a little bit of an increase in the MPO fees, about $900. You'll see a little bit of a drop in the Iowa Living magazine cost, and that was about $5,500. And that's because the previous couple of years, we had a development and Parks and Rec insert that we paid for out of our department, and we're not doing that this year. So that saves us a bit. I think those are really about the only major changes in our budget coming up. Obviously, we didn't spend everything that we had planned for operating supplies and some of our capital improvements from last year, again, because of COVID, just delaying the starts of those projects or initiatives. But we do plan to get those going this year and spend that as planned. Does anybody have any questions?
All right. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Community development, Luke Paris.
Yes, thank you. Run through just some of our accomplishments in 2020 as well, and then we'll dive into the budget and any changes there. Obviously, everybody knows, 2020 was a challenging year at different times due to COVID. One of the things that we really had to adapt to quickly was our inspection process. And we were able to continue to do those inspections and help people build their homes and do things in the city without much interruption at all. So I was really impressed with our staff's ability to quickly adapt to that. And actually, we had other communities look into us to see how we were handling things, because we were one of the first ones out there putting out information about how we were going to continue our inspections. We also kept our development process going, and being able to do those reviews and approve those projects via digital meetings and even digital council meetings and P&Z meetings was really appreciated by a lot of our applicants. I heard a lot that they were glad that we decided not to delay things and keep projects moving, keep our rezonings moving, keep our plats moving. And because of that, I think, one of those reasons is we've had a record number of housing starts this year. So it's our highest number of new housing permits from a single family and townhome perspective. Not to mention the apartments that we have going on right now as well. So, a lot of our work in the past and our rezonings and our platting really helped us ensure that we had the availability for all of that work to happen this year. So it's kind of a culmination of things. And in addition to that, our continued new developments this year, new zonings that we've done, new plats that we're approving, are going to continue to give us that ability to have solid growth going into the future, particularly with some key infrastructure being put in with the sewer along Lake Colchester. Really excited about that project happening. That's going to help us continue to grow orderly in the city. If you ever wondered why we're growing out west right now and not kind of right on from where the city's at right now, it's because that sewer is not in. So once that sewer is in, that's going to help that area that's kind of immediately west of the current city start filling in, which is a good orderly development. Began implementation of a new permitting software that we're really excited about. It's going to help us be more efficient in the office as far as streamlining our process. And then in the field, it's accessible to our inspectors when they're out in their vehicles. So that's going to help a lot. It's also going to provide our residents an online portal where they can submit all their information digitally, and then also track their permit process and do all their payments, and really help out and make that a lot nicer and more modern process. And then lastly, we started our comprehensive plan this year. We had a few hiccups with that. Again, COVID challenges there. We really had to change course in what we'd planned for public input. But we really tried to double down on a lot of digital things, and we're able to secure over 600 households participating in our survey, which is really good representation of the community. I believe we've got around 3,000 households total, so it's statistically relevant. So when we're looking at that data, we can feel pretty confident that we're hearing from the community and kind of what what they find important going forward. Right now, we're wrapping that process up, and we'll be moving on to some future land use discussions and some draft concepts in the coming months with our steering committee. So with that, I'll move into the budget side of things. Our budget's pretty streamlined too. It's broken into two sections: our community development fund and our building fund. Not a lot of change in community development funds this year. Under our payments for services, we had in the past paid for some of the fireworks out of there. We've removed that for this year, but then we've also added in some funds for the Norwalk New Urbanism Study. That is the work that we're doing to see how we could incentivize a new urbanism peninsula district that we went and visited type development. And then we've added $18,000 to our consultant fees, which is the V&K retainer for our city engineering services. In the building department side, that pretty much stays the same as well, with the exception that I note there's under our consultant fees there, though there's a $14,000 item that will be a recurring item every year. That is our payment for the continued use of the building permit software. That's all I've got. Happy to take any questions.
Questions for Luke? Hearing none. Thank you, Luke. Next on the menu is Public Works, Water and Sewer. Wayne.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try to be brief, because I'm sure this is getting long for everybody, but so the goals, if you've had a chance to read them, you'll see they're consistent with what you've heard all night. It's mainly focused on streets. Our goals are improving the street network, improving the street quality. I did put in there in the 3 to 5 year goal to improve or increase our PCI rating. That might be a bit aggressive. We probably should shoot, even maintaining it would be great, but we're actually going to try to shoot for an increase. Right now it's 73, our PCI on a score of 0 to 100. 73 is considered good or very good. So not bad. Getting into the budget, for the road use tax, you'll see the street maintenance supplies is $200,000. That's the money we use internally. We have our staff do street patching. That combined with $300,000 in lost, we have $500,000 programmed for maintenance. So that'll be $150,000, $200,000 on our end, and then we'll contract out repairs for patching, any sort of street repairs we need. It'll be crack sealing, joint sealing, concrete pumping. We'll pump in flowable mortar. So that's what that money will be used for. Paris mentioned 45,000, that line item below it. Some of that's for city engineer. We'll start paying city engineer retainer fees. We're putting in our budget, and I know I mentioned this before, we big on recycling our pavement that we pull out. We're bringing in like some equipment to have our pavement we pulled out. We'll crush it and reuse the rock as base on new patching. So it's a good recycling program for that. And then for water, we're still working on new water tower land. We're narrowing in on a few sites, so I'm happy with that. We're including in our budget money now for water main upsizing. When some developments go in, the developer is required to put an 8-inch main. Sometimes we prefer a 12-inch main as more of a transmission water main. We've had these come up in the past and we have to scramble to find money. So now we're budgeting for that every year. So we're have some more comfort and ability to react to a project. In the sanitary budget, nothing too exciting here. We do have $600,000 in the budget for the legacy golf course sewer. That's a project we're excited about. That will actually allow us to get rid of the lift station in the legacy golf course. It's probably probably doesn't mean much to you folks, but it's a huge headache on our end. It's just a lot of maintenance, and it's a weak point in the system. We're always worried about it. So if we can get rid of that lift station, that'd be great. And then on stormwater, another project we're excited about, there's $85,000 budgeted to start engineering work on Cherry Parkway. It floods. There's a low point there. I'm sure everybody's seen where Cherry Parkway floods. It's actually related to improvements are necessary all the way down to East 18th Street at Windflower Park. There's a whole corridor improvements necessary to relieve that flooding there. So it's pretty complicated, but we're starting to work on that, and we're excited about trying to resolve that issue there. And that's all I have.
I'm on mute. What about this?
Say somebody hasn't noticed what he's holding up there.
I can't see it.
This is the APAI Municipal Paving Program Award for 2020.
Yeah,
You need to stop sharing screen, Luke.
There we go. What is it?
That's the award I mentioned before. I think that we have an APAI member who lives in town who helped us, encouraged us to apply, and we did get the award. And it was a surprise when we got there. Tony Blizzy was actually awarded a Consultant of the Year award from the asphalt industry. So kudos to him. That's a nice award to get.
Yeah. Any questions for Wayne?
Now, you don't think that award allows you to increase your budget greatly, do you? Anyway, appreciate the job you folks do with the snow removal, and thanks a lot for doing those hot patches, trying that. I think in the long run, that's going to help a lot, but we'll see what happens.
Thank you.
Yeah, this last snowstorm, you guys had a long night, because not only did you have snow removal going on, you had a water main break at the same time. So it was a long day for your guys.
That was a worst case scenario. We got done plowing snow at midnight and we got the water main break call at 12:40. So guys had just gotten home and had to come back in. They went home about 11 a.m. the next day. So they're up for over 24 hours straight. So they earned their money that day for sure.
Yeah. All right. Luke, where do you want to head this from here?
Well, and Gene, pipe in if you've got any thoughts, but we normally have another work session planned. But we were able to wrap it up, in the past years, that's what we've been able to do is kind of wrap it up quickly. So I think we've got through a bulk of it. Gene, what other next can we cover it at a regular council meeting?
I believe we can. We will just have to, next meeting, we'll set the public hearing for that maximum levy resolution. That was a new process we started last year. The state indicated if we went above 2% of our growth and we went 5%, that we'd have to do this extra public hearing. So we will be doing that in February. We'll set that on the 21st. And then we'll go from there. We'll set the public hearing for the CIP, if you're okay with the CIP, unless you want to go through that. If you're okay with those, we'll do that as well. And then we'll do public hearing for the budget. I think we can do it all at regular meetings.
All right.
So Mayor, I had mentioned to you that maybe next Tuesday we would need to do something, but you folks are, staff did a great job. You guys did good.
Yes, they did.
I don't think we need
Yes.
Tuesday.
Yeah, I don't think we need to meet on Tuesday. So I think we're
Yeah, I'm
good.
very grateful for all the work. Staff just makes it easy to understand, easy to follow, easy to figure out what questions we have or don't have and get the work done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were good briefings, Luke. Really appreciated it. Appreciated the overview that both you and provided. So that helps a lot. Makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gene, I wanted to get your name right, Gene Kelly, so I don't want to make a mistake. I'm still saying Washington Redskins. I'm sorry.
No problem.
All right. So is there anything else?
I want to say thanks to the staff too, because there was no surprises tonight in the budget because you guys have been talking to us about stuff all year. You guys don't hold anything back on any increases or things you're asking for or changes. We seem to know about them ahead of time, so thank you.
All right.
And also they practiced a lot of self-discipline. I know it's not easy. Someone feels someone else is getting more or whatever, but you guys work together as a very, very good team. And that's appreciated.
Thank you. That means a lot to us. Thank you very much.
Cool. So we will meet at 5 o'clock at our next meeting. That will be for Luke's review, and then we'll go in into the regular council meeting after that. Other than that, I think that's all we got. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
Okay, I got a motion, a second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. We are adjourned at 7:02 p.m. Great job, guys. We got a lot of work done tonight.
Excellent.